Right, good evening, ghouls and golettes. It's your old fiend Crystal from the Twin Ports Horror Society. And this evening we are joined by Darrell Davey. Darrell is a lover of all things Halloween, horror, and sci-fi. And he is also the creator of the new game, Hallows Eve, which I see in the background. Hi, Darrell. Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me out. I really appreciate you guys doing this. This is exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very cool. Been having a good time so far. We've gotten to talk to some really cool, interesting people. So thanks.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see what all the other ghouls and goblins have to say as soon as these come out. I am looking forward to March for sure. So
thank you. Well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Us too. Very cool. So let's get started with I guess, where did your love for all things Halloween, spooky, all of that begin?
Sure. As I've mentioned on some of the posts, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation where I've always just kind of been into things that are weird and a bit of the macabre. I grew up out in the woods, and I really do think that has a lot to do with, it's quiet, what's beyond the wood line, so you spend nights looking out into the forest wondering what's out there. And I think a bit of horror and Halloween and all of that harken back to those days of that excitement of the unknown. And then I have my uncle Jeremy, who also shares a passion in this, and my mom will blame him till the end of the world for me being the way that I am, and he swears I was like this and just brought it out. So it could go either way, but it's started off very young, and I've been in love with the genre ever since. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I feel the same way. I can't remember a time in my life that I wasn't super into scary and weird and just creepy, and I don't know, there's something about it that's just awesome. Mm-hmm. So clearly you have a love of Halloween. With your so can you tell me, so you've developed this awesome game, which I see in the background there. And we watched some of the videos of the play of the game, and
great.
It looks so fun. So I have a million questions about how, so let's just start with, how did you come up with the idea of creating a game?
I'm a bit of a storyteller. It's gone back and forth for years. I'd gone to UWRF for film and theater because I've always wanted kind of a story to tell. I enjoy having people in that world. And with that comes, how do you tell the story? How do you involve people in this world? And I don't like forcing people into a certain perspective. And I very much am that kid that never got off the playground. I just want people to play with me and have fun and imagine and make their own stories up in this sort of world. So I found that board games is a great way for me to express myself and tell my stories through these games without having to force a narrative, or let people enjoy some of this world, this creation I've made, and yet have their own freedom in that to make their game nights, their stories come to life through this. And I've been making on and off games since probably middle school, nothing that's really stuck. I enjoy mechanics. I like looking at things in the way that, not mechanics, I couldn't put a car together to save my life. But I love how things function in games. It's endlessly fascinating to me. So I've always monkeyed with this and that and kind of made like clones of other games, and started to take a serious crack at it about 4 or 5 years ago, where I thought, I'm going to finally finish and really get something on the table. And I'd been working on a game at that point called Skirmish. And it was going well. It probably would have been out by this point had I kept up with it. But I had all of these pieces of other games that I had made in the past, where this, this element I kind of wanted, guys on a map, and maybe it's like a fighting game, and you can collect the cards and make a fighter. Or, dungeon crawl, since, D&D is blown up in popularity. I was like, maybe kind of a dungeon crawl thing. So I had bits and pieces of games, and not to be too on the nose with it, but I woke up one morning and I Frankensteined it together in my dreams. And something happened where I'm like, if I can use this mechanic with this thing that I've been trying to do, it all sort of pieces together, and I can make it into like a Halloween themed game, which is kind of what I'd been trying to do at that point anyway. And just as hokey as it sounds, it literally was, I'm waking up and going, whoa, I think I just figured it out. And yeah, writing it down, and about, I'd say 80% of what I had wrote down that first day is still a lot of the core of what this game is. So
you're kidding me.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
I'm excited. I don't know how it happened. It's just bits and pieces of things that were kind of working, and you shake the box around enough, eventually something's gotta fit together. So
well, it's super cool. Like, I love so when we're, watching the gameplay, you have tiles. So it's basically a trick-or-treating neighborhood, and you have monsters and trick-or-treaters, and then candy cards. So can you explain a little bit of the game to everybody? Because it looks super fun.
Sure.
In the after times, we have to play. I'm just going to say that.
Down, absolutely.
Okay, good.
This goes up to anybody, especially on Twin Port Horrors. You guys contact me, and when the big bag Corona's gone, I've got a game space here. I love board games, even if it's not mine. You guys can come on over. Yeah.
That's super cool.
I'll meet up. I need some game time. So yeah, the game functions in it. I tried to capture as much of Halloween and horror movies and the feel of being the kid, or that, like, when you get into a costume and you really get into the mood and you stalk the streets. And it is my love letter to the holiday and to my passion in general for horror and sci-fi. But more than anything else, I wanted to try to encapsulate the feeling of Halloween. So there are, within the main box, there are 3 different monsters you can play as a role, or a chaperone. You need at least one chaperone who is in charge of all the trick-or-treaters who are going around out in the world trying to collect all the candy pieces here off of the map. Or you can be one of the 3 monsters that come in the box, who have a deck of cards that kind of give them their unique flavor and their unique way to play. As you mentioned, we have, hopefully it's not too glossy on the camera here.
No, not at all. Looks good.
There are street tiles that connect.
I love this part
together.
that they're interchangeable, so you can make the neighborhood different every time.
Each one is double-sided. There's different streets, different ways it can be set up. So even in 2 different cards, you have several different ways to play. And a key thing for me as I made this was replayability, and not getting too bored with the same situation, or have somebody who, because of some of these games, once you kind of master them, it's hard for a new player to come in and have a chance against somebody who has experience.
I understand.
Yeah, especially with some of these like heavier air quotes games, if you will. You have somebody who has all the math down and all skills down. You're toast before you even start.
Right, you're just a sitting duck.
Yeah, so I wanted to put as much controlled randomness, if you will, into the game as possible. So there's dice rolls, there are card draws, where you set up your pieces, how the tiles are laid. Some people don't like that, and this game might not be for them, but for me, I want this to be a welcoming game. I want this to be something that brings family and friends together around a table.
Right, and have a level playing field, kind of.
Yeah, and not to say that someone who's played this a few times won't have
some strategy,
the upper hand, but with the way things sort out, you're never like for instance, if you're rolling a dice, whether it's a 4-sided dice or a 12-sided dice, you can still roll the 1 on either one and miss whatever you're trying to do. So again, that was very important to me to try and bake that in for that. But yes, so the main goal is there are 2 opposing sides. One is the chaperone, who has trick-or-treaters. There's 4 per monster in play, so the game expands the more people you have. So the more monsters, the more tiles, et cetera, et cetera. So you get a lot of your friends over, you've got yourself a big game night. And it expands with it. So there's more monsters on the street and more of these trick-or-treaters. The chaperone is responsible for trying to get at least 1 trick-or-treater to survive the night by collecting all of the candy pieces before the monsters, who are kind of frenemies, are all working against the chaperone to gobble up all the trick-or-treaters, and also amongst themselves to see who ends up with the most trick-or-treaters at the end of the game. So either the chaperone wins by collecting all the candy pieces, or the monsters win by wiping out all the trick-or-treaters, then the monster with the most trick-or-treaters wins.
So in your game, if you had a choice, I mean, you've obviously developed and played this game, would you prefer to be a chaperone or a trick-or-treat or a monster? Is there and can you choose? Can you draw a card? Like, my understanding when I was watching is you can pick what you want to be.
Yes.
Or do you? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So you start out again. 1 person has to be the chaperone. There's only 1 chaperone in the game.
Okay. Yep.
And then the other person would play as a monster. As it goes up, there can be more and more monsters. I love being the monster.
Yeah.
It's too much fun. Yeah.
Totally.
And I think a lot of folks on our site would probably agree. Although, in good, very glad to hear it. There's lots of people who enjoy the chaperone because
you're the hero, kind of, you know.
Yeah. You get to be the survivor girl. You get to be that plucky group of kids surviving against alien invasion or what have you. And they don't maybe have as powerful of attacks as the monsters do, but they're plucky, they're smart, they're witty, and they can use that to survive the night. And people who are very into like strategy or power by numbers or like board placement really like the chaperone role, because it's the might of many against the 1 or 2 big brooding monsters.
That's cool.
And those folks really enjoy trying to outwit these monsters as they roam around the board and try to wipe out the trick-or-treaters.
Well, now I can't decide if I would rather be a chaperone, because I like the idea of the outwit, outplay, outlast kind of thing, you know, too. So I guess we'll have to play it more than once so I can try both.
I guess you're gonna have to. That's the bottom line.
At least twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. So now you said you can play with like a big group of people. So is there a limit on how large your group can be? Can you play with teams, or is it everyone's doing their thing? I mean, there's 1 chaperone, and then like explain that part to me.
So what you can get in the box that I currently have is enough for 4 people to play. There's enough trick-or-treaters to kind of randomize things, and I'm not going to point up here, but I have, I think, 13 other monsters on the way. So it depends on how big your table is and how many people you can get. Currently, the max you can have is 4 people, just because that's what I have.
3 monsters and the 1 chaperone. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
There aren't rules right now for splitting the chaperone. 1 person can, so that would be 12 trick-or-treaters to handle if you had all 3 monsters, which is it's a bit of a deep dive in perhaps the first time, but as any game, take the first game or so just to really familiarize yourself with the rules and the board. I say this to everybody, the instructions may give a little bit of a syllabus shock, but 90% of what the instructions are is so people don't do stupid stuff with the simple rules of the game.
Right.
Like,
I get that.
Yeah. So it's just making sure you set up properly, making sure that, you're not trying to get away with too much. But the game, once people get it a round or 2 and they're like, oh, this is actually pretty straightforward in a fun sort of way. You don't get too bogged down mentally on your decisions, or nothing's too permanent where you're bummed out the rest of the game because something didn't happen.
So I have a question. As far as, okay, so you have the game pretty much, you said 80%, when you very first started writing everything kind of came to you, and then you kind of got the other 20% down. And then where do you go from there? Do you have like test groups? So you wrote down all of your directions or rules and all of that, and then do you say, okay, here's the game, go play it and let me know if you were able to do it?
Yes.
And then come back to me with feedback.
It started off with kind of like intimate group of friends and the same people who have broken board game after board game that I've tried to make, where I go, hey, I've got a great idea, and they're like, cool, let's stomp on your dreams for a little bit, right? And they break mechanic, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get you next time, and I got them with this one.
Good.
Where I go, all right, I have this concept. So most of my original stuff's up in a box right now, but are on a display. But it's as simple as making a prototype, which I cut out, cardstock, wrote it with Sharpie. If it didn't work, throw that card away, write something different, and just very basic, where I didn't have to feel like I spent a lot of time and money on making this prototype, and now I'm worried that it's going to go away. So in the first steps, I've been doing this long enough to where I realized nothing's really permanent or sacred when it comes to the early steps. So we chewed through a lot of it, and I thought, oh, this idea is going to be great, and this really works. And then you have to get on the table, and you have to get it with people who are truly willing to say, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
not hurt your feelings, I guess, but say, hey, this isn't going to click, this because of this and this doesn't work. And so once you get through that kind of fuddy-duddy, okay, well, how do you do? I've got notebooks and scrawling to look like a madman of all the notes I've taken and gone, this is something I need to keep. This is something that you're right, it needs to change. And then once it got down to that point, I said, well, now it has to go beyond just my friends. I need to make something that's a bit more presentable to either ship out to somebody or to have people who aren't quite as familiar with me, who I don't have to worry about them just saying, I like it because I'm your friend.
Right.
Sit down and play the game. So then I go into making stuff that looks a bit nicer. Still very demo-y, under $100 would put something together, make the tiles, take some time. Most of it all illegally screen captured off of my computer, honestly, printed off and like, all right, these look great. I don't own these images. We're going to work with it and don't tell the FBI. And then from there it gets it's a good thing it's being recorded and sent out to the masses, right? Yeah. So, and then from there it is moving on. When I feel confident that these are working, I don't have to change these cards as often, then I would start on working and collecting people going, hey, I need you to help me design the tiles and make them look nicer. What do I do for card art? What do I do for box art? So that is where a lot of last year went for me, is I was finally at that step of upgrading to trying to get this out to a company, trying to get it out to some people who may be interested in buying it, or finding the way of how to produce it myself, which has been a journey in of itself, and it's not done yet, but still selling the game, very satisfied with how it's been going. People have been really enjoying it, and I'm hoping to get it a level up more, or if I do it kind of like a mon pa shop, I work out of my workshop down here and sell it out via the internet, I'm kind of okay with that as well. It's been doing well enough in that regard where I can be more intimate and personal with these people. Sure, I'd love to see it on a game shelf somewhere as well, and that would be the ultimate goal, but there are sacrifices that come with that as well. I don't want this game, as much as I love Freddie and Michael and Jason. Not as much Jason. I'll say that on record. I'm not a big Jason Voorhees fan. But I don't want this to be Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and, so on the board game.
The creative, we have a little bit of a delay, so sorry if that's coming through.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's not you. It's Zoom land. I suppose you have to worry about like your creative license kind of being hijacked by like a bigger company taking it over. You probably worry about losing some of that creative freedom.
Right.
Which, yeah, I totally can. I mean, obviously I've never made a game, but I can understand that, this is your creation and keeping it to be what your vision is important. And some people are willing to sacrifice that to do whatever, and some people aren't. And you got to find what is where your comfort level is, sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And still navigating those channels. Some days I'm like, I think it could go on to somebody else. I would love to just say like, hey, if you want to get this game, take me on as a game developer, game designer. I would love that, And then, as I mentioned briefly, I have several expansions and different packs. So this game,
that was on my list of questions.
Done with. Oh, okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. So I love so far that like what I've seen of the game, that it totally has that look of being able to expand on by expansion packs and maybe different worlds, different streets. Tell me about that some.
So I've been working very hard over this last little bit. The silver lining of this whole Corona business is I did have a lot of time to sit down and really just buckle in and decide, hey, this is a passion of mine. And I can't play with my friends right now because we're all stuck inside and there's a real monster out there. So I might as well make the best of my time and get it prepared for when my friends do. I had another friend who had mentioned that if I'm going to be playtesting stuff, I'm going to be making stuff, I might as well do it all at one time so I can future-proof now and implement anything into my rules that will help me down the line. I know where I'm going. So as of this week, and I always say it and I make another monster or another expansion in my head, but I have all of the tools necessary to start playtesting what I consider the life of the game. So it, depending on how I choose to do it, it could come out in waves, which would probably be that it gives me time to make sure I get the art down, get things produced and made. But I have another 3 monster set where it's a different theme. It still fits very well within this world, and it's just a different location, maybe a different season. And other like 2-pack monsters or ones that are singular. As I mentioned, I think I have 15 monsters in total spread out amongst these. And with that comes the trick-or-treaters who take on different roles and aspects in that regard, and different niches, because again, I take it a bit from Magic the Gathering, the card game, where each deck is kind of unique to a person. You can make something that's very uniquely yours. And I want that for people who play this game. So maybe they don't want to buy this first one. They like the game, or maybe their friend has the pack. That's a big problem I see with board games in general is I want to play that game, but I don't want to spend all the money to play it because my friend who I play with already owns it. So why would I go out and spend the money? So what I want to do is, alongside of the expansions, is do single monster packs where you say, I really like that monster. I like that style. And you can buy just that monster. I'm not here to gouge you for your money. I'm not here to, I'm not going to make money off of this really anyways. It's sure. Not something that's a very lucrative business, especially at the level I go. But I want someone to be able to show up, and then the people who they play it all the times and their buddy from the city comes up who bought one of the extra monsters comes, it's like a new monster's entered the town. Now they have to face this new challenge. And if they're like, all right, every friend just buy one monster, and when you come over, it's like, oh no, Freddy's back. Like we have to deal with this monster and this threat we're not used to anymore. And I want to try to catch as many different types of players and make this enjoyable for everybody, which has been sometimes a bit of a tactical nightmare when it comes to making sure the rules all mesh. I had my most recent one, I've been playtesting, is a blob-like monster that plays like a tile-laying game. So the monster slowly grows piece by piece and can slurp and slime all over everywhere. The Blob is by far one of my favorite horror monster movies, especially the 58 one. So capturing different ways to interact with the board, different ways to play the game, where, again, tile laying games are huge right now. People might buy it because they like the Blob, or because they like tile laying games, or they don't have to worry about the cards as much. It's more about how you place your pieces. So the fun of that is being able to have this wide swath and catch a lot of people's eyes by saying, like, hey, this game does have a little bit for everybody. So yeah, and again, as you mentioned, different streets. So the different streets, different trick-or-treaters. I guess I'll say it. I'm as a creator, I'm always worried about saying too much early. So I'll say this with a grain of salt. Nothing is sticking for now, but I have All Hallows Eve Part 2, Cabin Fever, which is set in a summer camp. I have Silent Night, which has, Krampus and like a snowman monster. I have a Graveyard Smash. I gotta check on the legality of that name. But with zombies and a ghost. I even have ones that's a drive-in movie theater and a burger joint, like a 50s.
I love all of this. This is super exciting.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
Well, the sky's the limit. I mean, I bet your mind just kind of goes like in every direction as far as like do this and have these monsters and everything. So what would you say is the most, I don't know, rewarding is probably not the right word. What's your favorite like piece of the game to create? Is it thinking of the monsters and their role, and you work backwards from that, or do you think of this setting or maybe it's all of that?
It is a bit of everything, where sometimes I'm inspired by a location. Like we have Gordy's here in Cloquet. I'll put it on camera right now. I would love.
Town. Did you?
What's that?
Did you make a Gordy's? Oh, okay, that's so fun. Okay,
it's a non-named drive-up burger joint located in a small town.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
I would love. Yeah, I would love to have some sort of coupling with them, and maybe it's an exclusive. You can only buy it there. Although,
that's so cool.
A family-friendly restaurant with a game about. Yeah. So that's a ways down the line, but I just kind of get this nostalgic feel again with the drive-in. So the Blob is related. It oozes out of a movie theater. I love drive-ins. Door County has one me and my wife go to anytime we get to, and just kind of that vibe of like this 50s 60s horror monster movies sometimes. So I thought that was a good location. So what kind of monster would go in that? We'll see. And these are all just like very prototype, just to get them on the board and play, but like a burger-headed monster with a giant spatula and crinkle claw fries, and corny names like Ketchup to make him move faster so he catches up to it.
I love that.
Deep Fry is one of his attacks, where he just puts them in the batter. And so I can go as dorky B horror on that end, or I take more serious ones like Miasma, who, like with the fog, this one it slowly grows. It counts up, and it is this fog bank that rolls around the map, and it has this area that it can affect. So anything within there is affected by this creeping fog, and it can do some things that other monsters can't, because it can like slip in to houses and stuff. So it depends, like sometimes it is the monster and I go, I need to find a way to make this work. To be honest, the Graveyard Smash one is I realized I had a summer one with Cabin Fever, I had a winter one with Silent Night, and I had obviously a fall one with All Hallows Eve, and I'm like, might as well get that other season in there. Springtime, it's
do you have like
one
a
of my favorite
mudslide,
seasons.
just like puddles of dog poop in yards?
Yeah,
that could be one.
really get that
Landmine
like
dog
unlocked smell of months of detritus under the snow. Yeah.
That would be
but
my
I'm
own
like, what's
personal
kind
hell.
right, like what's a holiday that I can riff off of? And I'm like, Easter, and I'm like, I could do a killer bunny. I don't know. And I think like, well, Jesus is kind of like a zombie, right? Like he comes back from the dead and everything else. I'm like, oh, well, I can do zombies and ghosts that rise out of the graveyard. So although Graveyard Smash is in my head canon at least, and again, this is the fun part, is because people can do what they want. Once it's out on their table, they get to express it however they want. But in my head canon, it's the group of kids who were too cool to go trick-or-treating decide to spend the night in the graveyard, and they get locked in and have to make sure these candles stay lit throughout the evening to keep the spirits at bay and the zombies at bay. So it's the same functionality of the game. Those monsters can be played in the main one. The boards can be connected. Those trick-or-treaters can be taken over. Mischief Coggernoita from the first one can be put in the graveyard. Or you can just buy the 2-pack and you can have a game that functions a little bit differently than All Hallows Eve as a whole. So yeah, to round off the question is I take inspiration from everywhere, and as I zone out. I'm at work in a meeting and I should be paying attention, or my wife is like, oh, hey, we have this really important date coming up. You need to remember these facts. And I'm like, yeah, but monsters are cool. Yeah. So she's a very patient woman. So yeah, I take it from everywhere, and I think it lends itself to the group. It is the world of All Hallows Eve at this point. Originally it was just the game, and now there's so much I want to keep adding in, and I hope I don't put the cart before the horse with a lot of this stuff, but people seem to be taking to it, and
well, I can't wait to play it.
And I want them to play it.
Totally. I mean, this sounds just so much fun, and like I'm getting excited about all these expansion packs and all of the things. So I'm super excited, and your motivation and drive is really super cool. Like that's part of what's really super cool about this, is that you can tell that you love it and you're passionate about it because of what you're creating. It's just a super cool thing. I love that. So do you
well,
find
thank you.
yourself? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. We have a delay again.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So
what
I was going to say is, do you see yourself like kind of staying on this path with this game, or do you have other kind of things rolling around in your head, like, okay, this is this thing, but I want, maybe I want to make a game about this or that. I mean, is there that ideas rolling around?
There is. I would say I have other passions, but it really all ends up melting back into this, honestly. My problem is going, I've got an idea. It would work better as a separate game, a separate idea, and then I'll sit there and hit my head against the wall until it fits in the world of All Hallows Eve. Mm-hmm. So I do. I have, I'd say about 3 or 4 other games that, with a bit less effort than this, I could get, we'll call it shelf ready, where I think they're fun. They're more family games. Some aim towards younger children. For a while, I was working, again, the Skirmish one, which is more of like on on the level of not like Monopoly, but a bit more of a family game. It's not as heavy as this board game would be.
Are they all
I would love to
monster
make like
and horror related, or do you take different avenues?
No, I dip into. I'm a big dork, regardless. Like, so I'm into fantasy and stuff as well. So Skirmish is kind of a dive into the fantasy world. It's Magic chess. It doesn't do it justice, but it's, you roll the dice, you move your people around, but it functions like chess, or each piece has a very specific way it moves, and you have to outwit your opponent on how you move it with the randomness of the dice roll. So unlike chess, where a rook moves a certain way, you go, well, I know this guy moves this way, but am I going to get enough squares to get to where I need to be? I have like an ice climbing game that's aimed more towards smaller children, where it's the mechanics are very simple, but it's you race to the top of the mountain and you try to knock your friends down with other things, which again, part of the reason why I'd love to get hooked up with the company as maybe a game designer, because there are other things besides this that I feel I have to offer for games. I'd love to make a trading card game at some point, but that's a whole other beast. That's where the decks for the monster cards came from, was a fighting game I was working on where you would collect different moves and make a fighter on a map. And it just happened to be like, well, instead of having to deal with the issues of random and how are they going to work together, just making unique packs, if you will. So each monster has a different feel to it. So yeah, I would say I have other games. I work with the Autism Association every once in a while. We run game clubs for them. That's the Autism Association of Minnesota, and they do some wonderful stuff. Ran some game nights, and through my work, I'm able to do role-playing game. We call it, boy, I play it twice a week. My mind is blanking now, but
I do that all the time.
Yeah, index card RPG. Realm Guard is what we call it, and it's kind of like a D&D for a kid to help them, teach them social skills and interaction and money and math. And my passion lays within what games can do for people for communicative skills, for bringing people around, for social interactions, there's so much to be learned in kind of that safety nest of, I am just playing a game. So I can say these bigger thoughts, have these bigger feels, and play this out, and still feel comfort that at the end of the day, I can put this back on the shelf and go, I've learned something, without having to go into the scary world and do that, especially for children. And most of my kids are somewhere within the spectrum or on the level where they need different ways to approach social situations. And so that's a very big passion of mine, is to
I love that.
How you can teach through games.
That's super
cool.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I like it. And I'm very fortunate that a lot of times I get paid like for 4 hours a week to play role-playing games. So yeah.
Sounds like you got it made. That's great.
Yeah, I weaseled my way into that one. I hope my boss
love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I gotta show you something real quick, and then I think Zoom's gonna cut us off. So I gotta show you something.
Oh.
So I made a game.
Ooh.
I made a game for my husband. Like, me and the kids we do things for each other on Christmas. Let's see one of your board game pieces again.
Okay.
Okay, that's way cooler than that. This is me.
Hey, I love that though. And here, I think that's adorable. And honestly, that's where you start though. And that's fun. That's handmade. Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. The likeness is.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Enough of that. I just thought it was funny. You're so much more creative. That is so cool. Man, I could literally talk to you. Oh yeah. Show me something else here.
Hold on, yeah. Sorry, I know I'm off camera here. But my stuff started off to kind of show you where I started quick before. Yes, those glasses.
That's my husband.
Are great.
Excuse me.
Oh, is that a big bushy beard?
Yeah, this really
Yes.
does look like him. I don't know. I see people. Here's a blush brush here. Maybe you can see better. Something dark. Maybe.
Yes. I That's wonderful. And it's fun. Like the Michaels and Hobby Lobby see me walk in and they're like, what kind of crap is he gonna buy today? Because I'm like, I'm making monsters. And they're like,
oh, I
please.
love it so much. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. And I'm like in there with everyone else in Hobby Lobby who's like, I'm gonna make this beautiful craft. And I'm like,
No.
So
You're
but
like,
I
hold
started
my
off
beer.
with, yeah, right. Yeah, watch this, kid. So I started off with just these little pawns. Simple as that. Painted a face on one just to represent Mischief, the pumpkin guy. I got some and this is, I'll be honest, I grabbed one of the nicer ones. But one of my starting guys, you can see on the bottom, let's see if I can get it to focus in there.
Oh, I
So
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all hand done, but if you look at the base, all it is just clay over one of these.
Oh, wow. That's
It
awesome. How
it took,
creative.
but it's the same thing as yours, where
Well, mine is
you
felt
start off
in
with
some
something like
hair.
that and it goes.
Oh,
I like it though.
well, thank
And
you.
there's an appeal to it. Yeah.
Well, maybe you can
So
publish this game too. It's
yeah, yeah, we'll get it. When X game company sees this and is like, hey buddy, come work for us. I'll call you up. We'll get that on the docket.
Oh,
So
hell yeah, that sounds
yeah.
awesome. Oh my God. Well, I am super excited to play this with you, and it's been so great talking. I could literally talk to you all night, but I'm super scared we're gonna get cut off before
I know.
I'm able to ask where people can find you. Where can we find you? Where can we find your game? We're gonna put links down in the comments for all of the things.
Awesome.
But yeah, tell everyone where we can go to get this awesome thing.
You bet. So right now, I currently make them in small batches of 15. You can contact me directly. I'm hopefully we'll get a website eventually here. I won't get into it. I started making this game sooner than I anticipated, but I'm glad that I did.
Thank you,
For putting it out. So
coronavirus.
some of Yes, yeah. And for some of the marketing things, I'm still going because I didn't intend until probably next year to start this process. But for now, you can reach me at Darrell Davey. That's Darrell Davey, Davey, on Facebook. Or you can look up The World of All Hallows Eve on the Facebook page, or Instagram. There's several ways to get a hold of me there. Again, I'll give you guys links. You can find me there. If you contact me, I'll let you know the next batches. Again, I try to do 15 or 20. That's about what I can manage to make in a time where I can get it to you, where you're not sitting there twiddling your thumbs, and I don't feel guilty. I've got that Minnesota guilt hard. So
yeah, I know you mean.
Yep. So I just I make them when I have enough people that seem interested in it. I'll do a batch and I'll get them out to you guys. And it takes about a month and a half of work to get everything all set and out there. But again, you can either find me on Facebook or in the links that they'll provide below.
Well, I think we definitely are going to have a follow-up interview again, because I feel like there's more stuff we can talk about, and then we should have one where we're playing the game all together. Get a little group in the after times, and we'll play it, and we'll film some fun stuff. I love that.
Yeah, I would love it. And so again, anybody who's interested, I'm gonna need playtesters for all of this. So you want to be part of it, I throw your name in the book for being a playtester as a thanks. I couldn't do it without everybody else. Like literally, this wouldn't have gone off the ground without friends and family and people like you who come and are willing to spend a Saturday dorking around with the game and figuring stuff out. So yes, I would love to play with you or any of you guys once we're able to be within 6 feet of each other again. So
well, maybe Corey's good at making those events. So maybe we'll have like an event day where we get to play and we can have all kinds of test drivers, test pilots, whatever you call them.
I would love it.
Oh
yeah, play testers. Yep.
Play testers. There we go. Sorry, not down with my game lingo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
You're gonna teach me that too.
You'll get
that's
there.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Darrell. It's great talking with you, and stay spooky. I think I read that on your feature fiend bio. So
Yes.
Thanks for,
Yes,
for
indeed.
taking the time, and you take care, and we will definitely be having some more conversations in the future.
I love
Keep
it.
making
All
those
right.
games.
Thank you so much and stay spooky.